day of the conference. We have a very plentiful and great day yesterday, and we listened many colleagues and students. They presented their works, and we benefited from their works. And now we will start the second day. The Professor Murniati Mukhlisin is the chair person of this session. I will leave floor to her. Yes, Professor Murniati, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Nekmetin Kizikaya. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Astaghfirullah seluruh anfusina wa sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu asyhadu an la ilaha illallah asyhadu anna muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi sayyidina Muhammad. Our respected brothers and sisters, in particular brother Dr. Sabri Muhammad, and was of course the host for today, İSİFAM Nikmitan, Professor Nikmitan, and also the presenters, the conference participants today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'm actually given such honor to chair this session today, and I've been actually reading the papers and quite impressed that Brother Mubarak Musa, Mubarak Mubarak Musa?
Mubarak Musa.
Mubarak Musa, because your name Mubarak Muhammad Kabir Musa, mashallah.
Yeah, I have 4 names actually.
Yeah, a very good name, mashallah, and a very meaningful name, Mubarak Daiman, inshallah. So you actually have a paper, or no, a paper. It's actually very long, 114 pages, and it's actually your work at the Hamad bin Khalifa University, College of Islamic Studies in Doha, Qatar. I went to your College of Islamic Studies, mashallah. It's quite, of course, it's you are very fortunate to study over there, and with the supervisions of very experienced and fluent people, supervisor, professors over there. You mentioned some of the names over here, and of course your topic today, Sharia appraisals of margin trading and short selling, is actually quite relevant for discussions, and because in many countries we sometimes have a doubt whether Sharia point of view on the margin trading and short selling, whether they are allowed, they are Sharia compliant, and I think it's a good job, and I hope you can compress your work and immediately submit to journal. Even, you know, you don't have to wait until your study completed. You can submit to the journal right away.
We are planning to publish the papers of this.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, mashallah. Is it like a proceeding or to your?
No. We will. So today I will explain it. We will, send papers to reviewers and select some of them, because we asked all participants to send their full papers to us. So we already have full papers, and we send full papers to the chairperson of each session to know, at least the content of each paper. And after the conference, we will select some of them, the best papers, and then send them to reviewers and get feedback. And after that, we'll publish them, inshallah, in a separate volume.
Yeah. This is a very good opportunity, of course, mashallah. And Brother Mubarak, but I really suggest you, I'm sure Prof. Nekmetin will ask you to compress your paper first, because it's 114 pages. So I think we have actually kind of a requirement, Prof. Nekmetin.
Yes. It will be between 7 to 10,000 words.
7,000 to 10,000 words,
yes,
which is
not more than 10,000 words.
Yes, which is approximately 20 pages.
Yes.
So, Barak, without further ado, I would like you to present your paper in 15 minutes. Is that 15 minutes, Prof. Magnatin?
Each speaker has 20 minutes.
20 minutes, yeah, because I'm still waiting for Sister Khadija, but you can have your time.
Yes, 20 minutes.
Mashkura. Assalamu alaikum.
So thank you very much, Prof. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
First, I would like to start by thanking you, thanking the organizers for providing us with this great opportunity. I will be presenting a paper entitled Sharia Appraisal of Margin Trading and Short Selling. My name is Mubarak Muhammad Kabir Musa. First, I would like to start with the background. We've seen like the adoption, several Muslim countries have adopted the conventional stock markets without any changes or alteration to its mode and structure to conform with Islamic law. This is regarded by some as one of the major reasons for its failure and unacceptance among the Muslim population. So to rectify this, several majority Muslim countries have taken different initiatives to address the problem. For example, to enhance liquidity, certain countries have, for example, relaxed rules restricting foreign investors from holding proportionate part of a company. Among the measures taken also is the introduction or introducing, they have introduced margin trading and short selling. The motivation for this study is like, for example, the current coronavirus pandemic has made the market a little bit volatile. We've seen the global market losing an estimate of over $5 trillion in wealth. So this crisis have brought the discourse on short selling and margin trading back to the core, as several countries have started to ban the practice of short selling. Also in academia, there is a growing interest on the role of short selling and margin trading, especially in liquidity enhancement and market efficiency. However, this growth has not been backed by Muslim scholars. We've seen that there is a paucity of literature assessing the efficacy of short selling and margin trading from a Sharia perspective in English language. So this study is a modest attempt towards bridging that gap. The methodology followed in this study is qualitative in nature. We gathered qualitative data and analyzed them to reach a ruling on margin trading and short selling. So the study relied on literatures of 4 major jurisprudence schools of thought and the work of modern Islamic academics and scholars as well. First, we'll start by margin trading. So what is commonly practiced in all markets across the world is that the investor invests in stock market according to his available resources and capacity. But in some cases, the investor might be of the conviction that the price of the stock market will be gearing towards a certain direction, and therefore would like to capitalize on this knowledge or conviction. The investor will borrow funds or stocks from a different entity to amplify his profit and achieve a greater return. So the process of borrowing money from a broker or a bank to purchase stocks is called margin trading. The U.S. Security and Exchange Commission defines margin trading as borrowing money from your broker to buy a stock and using the investment as collateral. So basically, that's the definition of margin trading. So there are several benefits to margin trading. One among them is margin trading increases the liquidity of stock market. It also gives the investor a better rate of return on invested capital. And interest on margin trading in some jurisdiction is tax deductible. So these are the benefits. However, there are certain risks of margin trading, as it amplifies the potential of profits. On the other hand, it magnifies the losses because you are using borrowed capital to purchase stocks. Also, there is something called margin call, which is another risk of margin trading. The mechanism of margin trading, how it works. So basically, an investor who wishes to buy stocks on margin trading, using margin trading, will first express his wish to use margin trading facility to his broker. The investor will be asked by the broker to deposit an initial margin. So the two parties will then sign a margin trading agreement. So this agreement defines the role and responsibilities of each party. It will also determine the interest rate the borrower pays on the margin loan So to finance this, the broker will borrow money from a bank and pay something called a broker rate. It's called a broker call rate. The broker will add something to the rate it pays to the bank, which is somewhere around 0.5 to 1%. The interest also is compounded. The interest the borrower pays to the broker is called margin rate. Next is the Sharia ruling on margin trading. So margin trading is a complex contemporary issue which did not exist during the time of the Islamic jurists. So therefore, to arrive at a Sharia or a fiqhi ruling will require using a method called jurisprudential characterization. So because margin trading implies borrowing funds to purchase securities, this is a loan process which was discussed under the heading of qard in fiqh literature. So it's nothing new. So people usually used to borrow, even in the time of the Prophet, used to borrow money from each other and all that. So they usually call that qard in fiqh literature. Therefore, if margin trading is considered as loan or qard, it means that for margin trading to be regarded as permissible from a Sharia perspective, it will have to satisfy all the conditions and requirements of a valid loan contract as stated in fiqh literature. There are to arrive at the Sharia ruling, we looked at different stages of. First, we started we started by analyzing or looking at the Sharia ruling on benefiting from a loan contract. Next, we looked at the ruling on margin or on minimum margin and initial margin, in which we arrived at the conclusion that both minimum margin and initial margin are permissible from a Sharia perspective. Then we looked at pledging of shares, because the shares that are bought using margin trading are pledged with the broker. So we looked at the ruling on pledging of shares, in which we concluded that using shares as collateral is permissible and does not infringe on any Sharia precepts. Then we looked at the benefiting from pledged stocks, because the stocks that are pledged with the broker usually lend those stocks to short sellers. So the broker usually benefits from those stocks. We concluded that there are several opinions with regards to the issue of benefiting from pledged property in general. But the study concluded that the preferred opinion is that it's impermissible to benefit from pledged property if the pledge is a result of a loan and not a sale contract. So in a loan contract, it's impermissible for example, the broker, since margin trading is loan contract, it's impermissible for the broker to benefit from the pledged stocks. At the end, we arrived at a general ruling for margin trading, in which we stated that margin trading, as currently practiced in various stock markets, is impermissible from a Sharia perspective, because first, brokers charge interest on margin loans and second, they restrict borrowers to trading using their
Brother, are you all right? Brother Mubarak? Oh,
What's the connection?
yeah, I think it's a bad connection. I think this is something that, you know, we always have problem during the online classes.
Hopefully he will be back soon.
Brother Mubarak, are you all right? He disappeared. What about Khadija? Sister Khadija from Malaysia, are you around?
He doesn't reply.
So, Brother Sabri, what do you think about his presentations on
I think it's good, but
issues?
please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
My comment for all presenters here, to use slides, to share the slides with us so we can see more the structure of the paper and the the content.
Yeah, that's why. Brother Mubarak, are you all right? Unmute, please. Unmute, please. You are still muted. Brother Mubarak, you have slides to show.
Yeah, I have slides to show, but I can read it. Oh, it's okay.
One of the participants, Dr. Sabri, would like to see your slides. If you don't mind to show us, you can just screen.
Okay, how do
the organizer, would you please make him enable him to present his slides? Who is this, Brother Hussein? Are you the organizer or anyone? Brother İSİFAM,
Yeah.
are you the organizer? Yes.
Now enable.
Yeah, he's enable. Yeah. All right, Brother Mubarak, can you try?
Yes. All right, I'll give it a try. Let's see.
Because not everyone has read your paper. Of course, they have read your abstract, but it's very short.
Yeah. Okay.
So for the participants, if you would like to ask questions, you can just start writing on the chat box. I will read it for him. So he was just in the middle of explaining why the study matters, why the study is important, and what are the debating issues on the Sharia compliance on the margin on trading. And in Malaysia, for instance, has been actually banned. And I'm not sure if in your respective countries actually have the same kind of amazing issues on that. Yes,
I can't find the option of sharing here on my screen.
Share screen is actually underneath.
Okay, yeah, I've seen. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so I don't know if you have heard the part on mechanism of margin trading.
Yes. Take your time.
Okay. So this. Okay, so the paper, the Sharia issues. So we looked at the several steps of margin trading. First, we started by looking at the issue of benefiting from a loan contract from a Sharia perspective. Second, we looked at the issue of on the ruling of minimum margin and initial margin. We arrived at a conclusion that both minimum margin and initial margin are permissible from a Sharia perspective, because initial margin in general represents a part payment of the price of the stocks. So there's nothing wrong with it. Next, we looked at the issue of pledging of shares or pledging shares as collateral for the loan. So basically what happens is, like, the stocks that are bought using margin trading are pledged with the broker until the loan is paid back, or it's repaid. So we arrived at, there are a lot of opinions, contemporary opinions on the issue of pledging shares. but the opinion we adopted is that it is permissible from a Sharia perspective to pledge shares with a broker in margin trading or in general, because this does not infringe on any Sharia precepts. Next, we looked at the issue of benefiting from pledged stocks, because the stocks that are pledged with the broker usually benefits from those stocks. The broker usually lends those stocks to short sellers. So from a Sharia perspective, what is the Sharia opinion on that? Well, there are a lot of opinions with regards to the issue of benefiting from pledged stocks. The opinion adopted is that it's impermissible to benefit from pledged stocks. Why? Because it will open a gate. Because in Malaysia, for example, they have a concept called ar-rahnu. The banks usually use that. So they will give you money and you have to keep something as a rahan, as a collateral with them. And the bank will benefit, or they will charge you something for maintenance of that collateral. So it usually opens a door, or it opens a door to something impermissible. For that reason, we said that it's impermissible to benefit from a pledged stock. Then at the end, we arrived at a general ruling on margin trading, and in which we said margin trading is impermissible from a Sharia perspective because it involves interest, and also the borrower restricts, or the broker restricts the borrower from trading unless it uses its platform. So for that, also the contemporary Muslim jurists and scholars are unanimous on the opinion that margin trading is impermissible. Next, we analyze short selling. So basically what happens is that investors usually in stock market buy and sell using their own resources, using their own capital. But in some cases, an investor might think that the price of a stock is going to decrease, for example. So the investor does not want the stock and would like to capitalize on that knowledge. So what happens is that the investor borrows these stocks, right? Borrows these stocks, sell the stocks in the market, get the proceed. The money is held with the broker. So this general concept is called short selling. It is defined. Short selling is defined by the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission as the sale of security which the seller does not own, or a sale which is consummated by the delivery of a security borrowed by or for the account of the seller. So the mechanism of short selling, as I just explained, is that an investor who wishes to engage in short selling will have to look for a party willing to lend those stocks, right? The borrower will pay the lender a certain fee called a borrow rate. After the stocks are borrowed, the borrower will sell the stocks in the market. The money is the borrower will get the money from the market. The money is kept with the lender as collateral. So when the prices of the stock goes down, the borrower will buy the stocks again from the market, right? Once he buys the stock from the market, he returns the stock to the lender. So this process is called short selling. There are several motives for short selling. Why do people engage in short selling? One of the major motives is speculation, because people speculate that the price of a stock will go down. So speculation is the main motive, and there is also hedging. Short selling is used as a hedging mechanism. Also, investors engage in short selling when there is a merger or acquisition. Jurisprudential characterization of short selling. So short selling from a fiqh perspective is a loan contract. We've characterized it as a loan contract, or qard in Islam. So for a short selling to be permissible, if it's qard, for it to be permissible, it has to satisfy all the requirements and rules of a permissible qard contract as discussed in fiqh literatures. So we, just as we did with margin trading, we followed the same process with short selling. We looked at each step of short selling. First, we looked at the Islamic position on selling a property before possessing it. Because basically what happens is like a borrower search for someone, for anyone who is willing to lend him the stocks. So when he finds a person willing to lend the stocks, before the borrower actually borrows the stock, what happens is like the borrower will sell the stocks before actually owning it. So what is the Sharia ruling on selling something before possessing it? Therefore, so we looked before possessing it is naked, and we arrived at the conclusion is like naked and covered short selling, in which the short seller does not borrow the shorted stocks prior to selling it is impermissible. So it's not permissible to sell stocks before you borrow it. So you have to borrow it first, then sell it. So the inadmissibility of such practice will be stronger in the case where short selling is used to manipulate the prices of the market. Next, we looked at the stock borrowing and lending from fiqh perspective. Is it permissible to lend stocks? Is stock or shares as a commodity? Can it be lent and borrowed from a Sharia perspective? We looked at the opinions of different jurists and scholars on this matter. However, we concluded that it is permissible to lend and borrow stocks because a stock is just a commodity, and every commodity which is permissible, according to the Zahiris and Hanbali's opinion, is permissible to lend and borrow. So therefore, and also there is a leniency in Sharia with regards to qard, because it is based on indulgence and not strictness. And there's something called, also we looked at something called substitute payment. When you borrow stocks, during that period, there is usually dividends paid on the stocks. So you have to substitute those dividends once you return return the stocks. So we looked at that and we arrived that it's impermissible. The substitute payment is impermissible because once you lend something, you borrow something from Sharia, from an Islamic perspective, you own that thing during that period. So whatever it's accrued or any benefit to that property during that period belongs to you. So there is no need to return that, to return anything to the lender. Then we looked at the ruling on short selling. We said that it's impermissible. Short selling as practice right now, it's impermissible because it involves interest. Also, we said naked short selling, which is one part of short selling, is impermissible because it involves the selling of stocks the seller does not own. Third, we said short selling is impermissible if the short seller sells the shares in the market before borrowing them. Fourth, we said short selling will be impermissible if an interest-free stocks, borrowing and lending process, if the shorted stocks belong to the broker. Fifth, we said it's impermissible to sell stocks of conventional banks because it's impermissible to deal with stocks of conventional banks. Also, we said that in the case of borrowing and lending that does not involve interest payment and the borrowed stocks are owned by a third party, not by the broker, then short selling will be permissible. Then next, the paper analyzed basically it's a case study of margin trading and short selling. So we looked at margin trading. There are two forms. One part is using of structuring margin Islamic compliant margin trading is using interest-free loans. So we looked at two companies. We looked at Aram Securities, which is an Abu Dhabi UAE company. So they use an interest-free loan. We arrived at the conclusion that the margin trading offered by this company is not Sharia compliant. Why? Because it contains riba. They say it's the contract and the agreement says it's an interest-free loan contract or initially they say it's a murabaha contract, but when you look at the agreement, you find that it's a totally different thing. So it contains riba. Also, the client, the amount used to purchase the stock is directly coming from them, not from a third party. And we say it's impermissible if the short margin trading will be impermissible if the amount used to purchase the stock is from the broker. Second, we looked at the group securities, which is a Qatari-based company. So it's a Qatari company. So basically what they have is a very interesting concept. They give you a 7 days grace period. Like when you borrow from them, you have a 7-day free interest-free loan. After the 7th day, you start paying interest on it. So basically, they call it an Islamic Sharia compliant margin trading. However, we arrived at the conclusion that the margin trading offered by them, it's impermissible. Why? The stipulation to pay interest after the 7th day, from a 7th working day, it's impermissible, right? Because what we look at in Sharia is the end goal, not the beginning. You look at the end. What is the end? At the end, if you don't pay within the 7 days grace period, you'll have to pay interest. For that, it's impermissible. Also, we looked at the application of margin trading using Murabaha. We looked at Mawarid Securities. It's a UAE also based company. This is actually the closest thing to Sharia compliant margin trading. But however, they had one issue is that Al-Mawarid usually does not properly possess the stocks before selling it. So they once they using Murabaha, for example, when the buy, let's say the broker purchases the stock from the market, it has to be, the stocks have to be registered by or in the name of the broker. It has to come into its liability before selling it to the client. But Al-Mawarid usually purchases the stock in the name of the client directly. So this is the issue that has to be rectified by them. So then we looked at the effort to construct Sharia compliant short selling. We looked at, there are 2 structures. There are a lot of structures, but the people looked at 2 structures. A Wa'ad-based structure and a Salam-based structure. Wa'ad-based structure was used by Amiri Capital, I think in the UK. We arrived that it's impermissible. Their structure is impermissible. Why? Because it involves a bilateral promise, which according to majority of scholars, it's impermissible. Then we looked at Al-Fanar Salam-based contract. We arrived that it's impermissible. Why? Because you cannot use Salam in stocks, in shares. Salam cannot be used for shares, right? Because there are rules for Salam, and those rules cannot be applied to the case of shares. Then at the end, we arrive at certain the conclusion, and we arrive at a certain conclusion recommendation. I'm going to skip the conclusion, go just to the recommendation. Recommendation: the government can improve market efficiency and liquidity by increasing awareness and educating the general populace on the investment opportunities available in the stock market. So there needs to be greater awareness. Also, the stock market of several Muslim countries is highly speculative due to poor regulatory framework. So there has to be enhanced regulatory framework in this in several Muslim countries. Next, we looked at the investors in most Muslim countries tend to buy and hold stock due to the limited numbers of available listed companies, which means that family-owned businesses, family-owned companies should be incentivized to list their stocks in the stock market. Also, the majority of investors in this market are individual investors, not corporate. So you have a lot of countries, especially in Qatar and in GCC. You have majority of these investors are individual investors. Government should provide necessary incentives to attract institutional investors to the market. Also, the fifth one is short selling and margin trading are extremely risky facilities. Although we say that you can construct, in general, you can construct a Sharia compliant margin trading or short selling. However, we have to keep in mind that these are extremely risky facilities. So providing such facilities to individual investors with the lack of awareness, with the lack of understanding of how markets operate, can be counterproductive. Therefore, such facilities should be offered to only institutional investors. I think China has tried this. Number 6, financial institutions offering Islamic margin trading and short selling facilities need to be more transparent. This is one of the issues I encountered during this research. You find certain financial institutions will claim that they are providing margin trading or short selling facility. However, you will never find the structure or the agreement on their platforms or on their website. When you email them, they don't respond. They will tell you, you can find everything on our website. So there is lack of transparency on that regard. So the structure and the relevant fatwa should be made available online for everyone to access. So that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brother Mubarak Musa. So you have actually several recommendations and also some case studies on companies such as Mawarid, etc., that you have mentioned about their activities, and of course, in many, mostly in Sharia board in many countries have actually imposed restrictions on the short selling margin because it is not complied with Sharia. How could investors want to buy shares? They borrow. They should actually plug in some money. And then as the brother Abdul in the chat said, short selling is what has been said in Hadith. So we cannot actually sell something that we are not owning. So I think this is something that we have to put some thoughts on this. I've gone through your paper, not your paper, actually your thesis, and I really appreciate if you, some of your thoughts, but you need some kind of rearrangement. And then, of course, when you compress that as a journal, it will be very helpful after you actually make some arrangement on your thesis. So I already put in your in a few points actually in the chat box. I will actually put more points on how you actually could start revising your thesis. And alhamdulillah, today we have actually Dr. Sabri Muhammad, and also we have Professor Sulaiman Kaya, and we have some experts here, Sister Irma and Dr. I have seen just now Dr. Atiki, and also we have Brother Eko Nur Cahyo, and there are some others who actually have some would like to contribute some thoughts about this. So I really please, for you to have discussion, engage with us with discussion. We still have ample time. So you may start, Brother Sabri.
Thank you, Professor Manati. Do we have another presenter?
It's supposed to be Sister Khadija, but I'm not sure. Anyone is Khadija here, or second presenter? Anyone?
No, the second speaker is not available now. We sent an email and called, but did not reply.
Okay.
So we assume that there's no second presenter. So we have time to have discussion only on Brother Mubarak Musa's paper.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. I think your paper is very bringing something very interesting, and you have. It's obvious that you have made an in-depth study on this research. Again, as Dr. Maniati mentioned, the structure, the way you presented, I would recommend you to improve it a little bit more. The fiqhi justification of what you are calling it short selling needs more clarification, more evidence, more debate. And the most important thing is that you acknowledge the limitations in your research. For example, as what you cannot say, what you don't have. So one of the hadith is clear. So you need to clarify more in terms of issues related to Sharia, and also the limitations important. So this would be my comment for you. In terms of your research methodology, needs more clarification for it. And one of your key methods, you could use discourse analysis. Discourse analysis would help you more to go in depth in the analyzing the textual analysis. Also the content analysis. Content analysis, you could even quantify your work if you want, because content analysis could be qualitative, you could convert the qualitative information to quantitative if you are interested in so, or if it will be more helpful for you to present something meaningful. So this will, I would leave you with this recommendation. Think of it, but well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Sabri. Yeah, would you like to respond to him, Brother Mubarak?
No, thank you very much. They are really great recommendations, and I'll definitely.
So I think it's really relevant, Brother Mubarak, what he said just now about research methodology, because when you go for publications, that's something that really attract the reviewers to say whether your paper is accepted or not, or rejected. So you have to be very clear on your research methodology, and he advised you to choose discourse analysis, where you actually interpret such social context. Or perhaps you can also use a critical approach, where you actually criticize the current short trading practices using fatwas. So I think I don't really see the list of fatwas that you actually should use that as the benchmark or references, not only in Sharia fatwas from IOV, but also you can also benchmark from the countries that you mentioned in your thesis, like Qatar, Kuwait, etc., and also in Southeast Asia countries, because in Indonesia and Malaysia they have a specific fatwa released on that matter, and we actually abandon that kind of trading, short trading, for the sake of earning margin. So and also some of the Quran and Hadith should actually be as your reference. And Dr. Sabri also mentioned about content analysis, which is actually you already done it, but you don't mention it in your research methodology. The content analysis where you have done, actually you actually read through the annual reports of the companies that you mentioned just now, Al-Mawarid, etc. But you have to go more details and use a specific method on how you conduct your content analysis on those companies. I think it's good if you do the comparative analysis as well, not only in Qatar, but also in other countries that perhaps GCC. So, you know, who knows, you will be able to present a part of the paper to GCC conference in that normally organized every year in Cambridge, UK. So I went to that GCC conference. So they sometimes they need kind of research input from the researchers. So every year they organize a conference. So you know you can go to UK and present your paper. Yeah. So again, thank you, Dr. Sabri. So I would like to invite any one of you to give comments to Brother Mubarak. Even if you would like to write in the chat, you are most welcome. And also Prof. Sulaiman Kaya, if you would like to give some highlights on his paper. Prof. Sulaiman Kaya. Prof. Sulaiman Kaya is a professor in Islamic economics from Sakarya University, Turkey.
نعم أستاذ.
ما شاء الله، كيف حالك؟ الحمد لله.
الحمد لله، أنت بخير أيضا إن شاء الله. ما
شاء الله. Yes, please. I'm sure your highlight, your input will be very helpful for Brother Mubarak. Do you have any comment, Professor Sulaiman?
أتكلم باللغة العربية ولا ألمانية فقط؟
ممكن تكلم باللغة العربية مبارك؟
نعم نعم نعم، ما في بأس يا شيخ.
ما شاء الله. تفضل يا بروفيسور سليمان.
عفوا.
Professor Sulaiman, you can speak Arabic?
نعم.
You can speak Arabic to him, he understands, yeah.
نعم. الآن ما فهمت الموضوع.
أيوة. All right, okay, so.
It wasn't in Arabic, so yes.
So Brother Mubarak, perhaps you can give highlight on your thesis to him.
اوكي.
بلغة عربية.
ما في بس. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله، حياك الله دكتور سليمان. رسالة بشكل عام عن بيع الهامش أو التجارة بالهامش وبيع القصير. فهي كانت دراسة فقهية تطبيقية. نظرت إلى بعض الشركات مثلا، دراسة تطبيقية. فأول شيء بدأت خلفية الدراسة، وثم نظرت إلى أهداف الدراسة، وذكرت أن من أهم الأهداف هو عدم وجود مصادر باللغة الإنجليزية تنظر في هذا الموضوع. ثم بحثت في طريقة العرض. بعده انتقلت إلى موضوع البيع أو المتاجرة بالهامش. ذكرت أن ما يتم العمل به في العادة هو أن المستثمر إذا أراد أن يشتري أسهما مثلا، فإنه يستخدم أمواله الخاصة. بس في بعض الأحيان قد يضطر أو قد يعرف المستثمر بطريقة ما أن أسهم شركة فلانية ستتجه أسهمها إلى الهبوط أو الصعود، وهذا المستثمر إما أن يستخدم أمواله الخاص لشراء هذه الأسهم، أو يقترض أموالا من شركة أو من بنك لشراء هذه الأسهم، أو يقترض الأسهم نفسها. فإذا اقترض الأسهم نفسها وباع، فإذا اقترض أموالا مثلا من شركة وباع واشترى بالأموال الأسهم، ثم باع الأسهم في السوق، فهذه العملية يسمونه بمارجن تريدينج أو بالمتاجرة بالهامش. بعده ذكرت فوائد المتاجرة بالهامش. قلت أنه يزيد من سيولة في سوق المال. كذلك قلت أن المتاجرة بالهامش يعطي المستثمر فرصة لتحقيق الربح الأكبر مثلا. وذكرت أن المتاجرة بالهامش كذلك في بعض الدول الأواعد أو الفوائد التي تجنى من المتاجرة بالهامش لا تدخل ضمن أو لا تحسب في التاكس مثلا. ذكرت مخاطر المتاجرة بالهامش. قلت كما أن المتاجرة بالهامش تزيد من فرص تحقيق الأرباح، إلا أنها في جانب آخر تزيد من فرص تحقيق الخسائر، بمعنى أن الخسائر التي يمكن أن تتحقق من المتاجرة بالهامش أكبر مما لو استخدمت أموالك الخاصة في شراء الأسهم. وهناك شيء يسمونه بالمارجن كول، هو أيضا عملية في المتاجرة بالهامش، يعد أيضا من أحد المخاطر المتاجرة بالهامش. ذكرت طريقة كيف يعمل المتاجرة بالهامش. قلت أن المتاجرة بالهامش أن المستثمر لو أراد أن يشتري الأسهم مثلا يذهب إلى البنك مثلا، ويخبر البنك بأنه يريد أن يشتري أسهما، بس يريد أن يستخدم طريقة المتاجرة بالهامش. فالذي يطلب البنك سيطلب من المستثمر إيداع مبلغ مبدئي يسمونه initial margin، هو المبلغ المبدئي، بمعنى جزء من ثمن الأسهم. فأول ما يضع المستثمر هذا المبلغ في الحساب يسمونه حساب المتاجرة بالهامش أو حساب الهامش، يدخل الطرفين في أو يوقع الطرفان اتفاق المتاجرة بالهامش، والاتفاق هذا يتضمن بعض الشروط والمسؤوليات. كذلك أن المستثمر كذلك يدفع أول ما يشتري المستثمر الأسهم يدفع فوائد على الأموال المقترضة من البنك. وكذلك أين يحصل البنك مثلا أو يحصل الجهة الممولة لهذه العملية؟ تحصل الجهة الممولة لهذه العملية أموالا من البنك مثلا، وهي كذلك تدفع فوائد على هذه العملية. ثم ذكرنا كيفنا العملية، ذكرنا تكييف فقهي للعملية. قلنا أن العملية من وجهة النظر الفقهي بما أنها جديدة، المتاجرة بالهامش لم تكن موجودة في زمن النبي أو في زمن الأئمة. قلنا أنها عملية جديدة إلا أنها يمكن تكييفها، وكيفناها على أنها عملية مجرد عقد قرض. وقلنا أنه حتى يصح العملية لابد أن يتوافر فيه جميع الأركان وشروط عقد القرض الصحيح. ثم ذكرنا أبرز الإشكالات الشرعية حتى نصل إلى الحكم النهائي لهذه العملية. بدأنا بمسألة benefiting from loan، يعني بمسألة الانتفاع من القرض. ذكرنا أحكام الشرعية لمسألة الانتفاع من القرض. ثم ذكرنا حكم الهامش المبدئي، هو المبلغ الذي يدفعه العميل قبل الدخول في عملية المتاجرة بالهامش. قلنا أن العملية أو الهامش المبدئي من جهة الفقهي أو من جهة الشرعي لا بأس به، لأنه مجرد دفع جزء من مبلغ الأسهم. كما أننا ذكرنا مسألة الضمان أو رهن الأسهم، بما أن الأسهم المشترى ترهن عند البنك حتى يسدد العميل المبلغ المقترض. قلنا أنه من جهة الشرعية ما لا بأس برهن الأسهم، لأنه لا يعارض أي نص فقهي أو أي نص شرعي. كذلك ذكرنا مسألة الانتفاع من الأسهم، لأن الأسهم المرهونة عند البنك مثلا، البنك ينتفع من هذه الأسهم. البنك بدوره يقرض هذه الأسهم لطرف آخر ويجني من وراء القرض هذا فوائد. قلنا أنه من جهة فقهية ومن جهة شرعية لا يجوز الانتفاع من إذا كان الرهن بسبب القرض وليس بسبب البيع. هذا هو ما توصل إليه البحث، أن إذا كان الرهن نتيجة أو بسبب القرض فإنه لا يجوز الانتفاع بالعين المرهونة، أما إذا كان بسبب البيع فله أحكام أخرى. ثم ذكرنا الحكم النهائي للعملية للمتاجرة بالهامش، وقلنا أن المتاجرة بالهامش كما هو معمول الآن في الأسواق المالية العالمية لا يجوز، لأنه يتضمن ربا. كما أن السمسار أو السماسرة يقيدون العميل بالمتاجرة عن طريق أو من خلال استخدام المنصات الخاصة بهم، بمعنى لا يسمحون للعميل بأن يستخدم مثلا عندما يقرضونه الأموال، العميل ليس له الحرية في أن يشتري الأسهم من طرف آخر، بل لابد أن يشتري من منصة المقرض، بمعنى أن المقرض ينتفع من جراء قرضه. ثم ذكرنا الأمر الآخر هو بيع القصير، وهو يشبه متاجرة بالهامش أو هو عكس بيع العادي المعروف. أن المعروف هو أن الإنسان مثلا يشتري الأسهم لأنه يتوقع أن ترتفع أسعار الأسهم في المستقبل، لكن في البيع القصير أن المستثمر يتوقع أن تهبط أسعار الأسهم لكنه لا يملك هذه الأسهم، فماذا يفعل؟ يقترض هذه الأسهم من طرف مستعد لإقراض هذه الأسهم، يدفع على قرضه هذا، على اقتراضه هذا يدفع عليه فوائد، فيبيع هذه الأسهم في السوق. عندما تهبط أسعار الأسهم يذهب إلى السوق من جديد ويشتري هذه الأسهم ثم يرجعها للمقرض. والفرق بين سعر القرض والسعر الأول والسعر الثاني يشكل الربح خاص بالعميل. بعده ذكرت الدوافع من عملية، لماذا الناس يدخلون في البيع القصير. قلنا أن speculation هو الدافع الرئيسي. ثم ذكرنا مسألة الهجن، وهو الهجن هذا المصطلح خاص به بالعربية. كذلك ذكرت ذكرت أهداف أخرى من وراء البيع القصير. ثم ذكرت مسألة التكييف الفقهي للبيع القصير. قلت أن البيع القصير من جهة الشرعية هي مجرد عملية قرض، كما هو الحال في البيع الهامش، هو مجرد عملية قرض، لأن العميل يقترض الأسهم من البنك ويبيع هذه الأسهم، فهو مجرد قرض ليس بأمر جديد. وذكرت أنه حتى يصح العملية لابد أن يتوافر في جميع أركان وشروط العقد القرض الصحيح في الفقه الإسلامي. بعده نظرت إلى موقف الشريعة من بيع الشيء قبل تملكه، لأن العميل مثلا في بيع العصم في بيع القصير الذي يحصل هو أن العميل القانون الأمريكي ينص على أن العميل لابد أن يبحث جهة مستعدة لإقراض هذه الأسهم، لكن القانون لا يجب على العميل أن يقترض هذه الأسهم. بمعنى أنك تستطيع أن تذهب إلى أي طرف تقول له هل عندك أسهم شركة فلانية؟ يقول لك نعم. هل أنت مستعد لإقراض هذه الأسهم؟ فإذا قال نعم فتستطيع بمجرد قوله نعم تستطيع أن تبيع هذه الأسهم قبل أن تقترضها. فقلنا من جهة الشرعية ما حكم هذه العملية؟ قلنا أن العملية هذه العملية يسمونه نكد، البيع العاري المكشوف العاري، نكد شورت سيلينج. قلنا أنه إذا كان العميل يبيع هذه الأسهم قبل اقتراضها من الجهة الثالثة، مثلا من جهة ثالثة أخرى يبيع هذه الأسهم في السوق، فإن هذه العملية فإن هذه العملية لا تجوز بسبب وجود نص شرعي صريح يمنع هذه العملية. الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا تبيع ما ليس عندك، أو لا تبيع ما لا تملك. فقلنا كذلك أن لكن في من العلماء من كذلك لهم أقوال أخرى حول هذا الحديث. ذكرت في مضمون البحث الخلافات والآراء، ورجحت القول الراجح في هذه العملية. وكذلك تكلمنا عن موضوع البيع الأسهم، لأنه يعد أنه أمر شائع، مثلا unspecified assets. فقلنا والرأي الراجح الذي رجحناه أن بيع الأسهم أو آسف، قبل ما ندخل إلى هذا، في مسألة قرض الأسهم، هل يجوز قرض الأسهم أو لا يجوز قرضه؟ هل الأسهم عين يصح قرضها؟ قلنا أن العلماء الفقهاء اختلفوا حول هذه العملية. فقلنا وذكرت الأقوال في هذا في مضمون البحث، والرأي الذي رجحناه هو أن الأسهم يجوز اقتراضها وقرضها بناء على رأي الظاهرية والحنابلة، حيث يقولون أن كل ما يجوز بيعه يجوز رهنه، وكذلك يجوز قرضه. وكذلك أن القرض بخلاف البيع مبني على السماحة وليس التشدد. بعده نظرت في مسألة يسمونه substitute payment، بمعنى أنك لو ما تقترض الأسهم هناك الأرباح أو الفوائد الدورية أو الأرباح الدورية التي توزع على هذه الأسهم خلال مدة القرض هذه، فإن المقرض لن يستفيد من هذه الأرباح الدورية. فالأمر المعمول به في الأسواق العالمية هو أن العميل
مبارك ممكن يكفي؟
أوكي، ما في بأس.
yeah, to give other participants to us as well. So yeah, Professor Sulaiman.
Yeah.
Yeah, نعم. تفضل مشكورا.
شكرا. أنا يعني اجتهد عموما في النظام الإسلامي في عهد العثماني، وهذه المواضيع الحديثة لا اجتهد لا فكرة لي عموما في هذه المواضيع، لكن أنا فهمت من مبارك موسى هو يعني يتفكر عن بيع الأسهم وقرض الأسهم. أظن إن لم يكن بيع الدين بالدين، يعني بيع الأسهم إن لم يكن بيع الدين بالدين صحيح عند الشرع عند الفقه، أظن هكذا. وقرض الأسهم هذا أظن لا بأس به، لأن القرض يعني يجري في المثليات، ولذا لا بأس به في قرض الأسهم إن يوافق شروط القرض. هكذا يكتفي.
بارك الله فيك يا شيخنا.
شكرا.
الله يبارك يا Professor Sulaiman. Shukran kasiran. Well, other participants, perhaps you would like to raise questions. Okay. The next session will start at 10:15. So I already been reminded by the organizer that the times. Brother Musa, I'm very sorry for other participants who would like to give a comments to Brother Akhil Musa. Perhaps you can pass your email in the chat box. You know, anyone who would like to keep in touch with you, they can actually email you, or you know, because we don't have a time to have more further discussions. So if you would like to share your email address, you can just write on the chat box. So to all the participants, thank you so very much for your participation today. I'm very sorry that second presenter is not around, but mashallah, we had a very fruitful discussions with Akhi Mubarak Musa, and we had a very meaningful contributions from Dr. Sabri and Professor Sulaiman. And of course, we will enjoy more sessions after this, and we would like to invite you to further discussions on other sessions and other topics. So again, thank you, Brother Mubarak Musa. So I wish you a very successful thesis completion and also publications, and good luck for your future study. Thank you so very much, and wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much.
Waalaikumsalam.